Hello all and welcome to Crochet Designs. My name is Mary. Today we are doing part 1 of our pouched Easter bag. I mean, look, is it not gorgeous? I reckon it is. Anyway, that is part 1. We are working with the wren cotton. Now today all you will need is the white. However, you will need 3 skeins of the white, because we are working on 3 skeins together, all right, at the same time. So it's super thick. And it actually calls, let me show you just quickly a bit about this yarn. Let's have a look, see. So you can see it is firstly 100% pure cotton, 8-ply cotton, which is a number 3 overseas or a DK weight yarn. But because we're using 3 strands, we needed to use a larger hook. However, it does call for a 4 or a 4.5 millimeter hook. This is the meterage and the yardage, by the way, guys. And there's some washing instructions, and I'll talk to you about that one day. You'll get to know about that one day. But in the meantime, we just wanted to let you know that we are using a 4.5 millimeter hook. Now, by tripling it, we really should use like a 6 or an 8 or, a very large hook. But I'm using a 4.5 because I want it to be kind of hard, stiff, tight, whatever you want to call it. And that way it forms a nice solid. It's not completely solid, like you can feel it's a little bit bendy, but it does form a partially solid base. And when we pop our pouches in, so our pouches will be like that and like that, we pop our are you ready? Ta-da! Easter eggs in each pouch. All right, like so. So as you can see that this, I'm trying to find all the, oh my gosh, look at these. Oh, yummo. So we're going to pop that there, that there, that there. Like we're going to empty the bag and pop them all in, yeah? And something else there, okay? So you can pop as many items. In fact, these eggs are so small that you could probably pop 2 in the one pouch. You could, all right? So your Easter bag will have pouches. It'll have one that way, one that way. So you actually have 4 sections, 4 pouches, if you will, all right? And part of those pouches will be attached to the bag, and then part of it won't. You won't understand that until you see part 2 of the tutorial. Today, all I want you to do is part 1, which is the base and starting up your wall here. And we are just starting it because we are going to change the design now. The whole pattern is going to change completely. But don't worry about that. That's part 2. We're going to talk about that. This particular bag will be a tad complicated for newbies. If you are new to crochet, you may find some of the stitches are easy because you would know them. This is only half double and single at the moment, right? But the actual putting the bag together when we do part 2 will be a little difficult. So if you wanted to, for part 2, and you didn't want to do the pouched section, you could just keep the bag the way it is and finish off the walls with us when we're ready to do it. But the pouches itself will be they won't be complicated, they'll just be fiddly. And I think the fiddly part, if you're new to crochet and you might be struggling with, what goes where and, measurements and all the rest of it, if you find that a bit stressful, then just finish off the bag with us and don't worry about the pouches. But I say take a risk, okay? It isn't for new crocheters. This part is, anyone can do this, yeah? But the pouch section will be a tad difficult. Not difficult, just fiddly. For this tutorial, you will need, I think it was about between 50 and 55 grams so far. But that is putting the 3 skeins together, okay? If you were to work on 1 skein at a time or 2 skeins, that's going to make your measurements a little smaller. Just heads up there, yeah? Okay, if you wanted to know how big ours is, I didn't measure it in the actual tutorial, but we can do that right now. And that's, it is 6.25 inches or 16 centimeters across in width that way. So when that goes up like that, it'll be 6.25. All right, or 16 centimeters. I didn't measure it again. I didn't measure it within the tutorial. It didn't worry me too much. Yours can be as small or as big as you like it. Just remember, if you're using a thinner yarn and your bag is this small, you may not be able to get your little sections in for the Easter eggs. All right, just heads up there, okay? If it's bigger, even better. It means your sections or your pouches will be so much bigger and you'll be able to fit more in there, like me. Shh, don't tell anyone. All right, so that is all we are doing for part 1. You will need your scissors for this part. You will need these 4 stitch markers here and this one here to join. Okay, now use 4 the same color and 1 different, because when you first start, this and one of these is pretty much side by side each other for I think 2 rows, so it can get a little confusing. You need to actually have a different color. If you don't have stitch markers, you can use a piece of thread, you can use whatever you want, hairpin, paper clip, safety pin, it doesn't matter. I would just use thread. I used to use thread before I bought stitch markers, so just a heads up there. All right, so you will need 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 plus this one here for the start. It ended up there at the end because it grew wider, but when we first started, they were right next to each other for 2 rows, so you will need a different color. The other thing you will need to know is do not remove your corner stitch markers. Okay, keep those in there for your count, because in between we're going to have, doesn't matter even if you do move them now at the end. I'd rather you didn't, but if you did, because it's sort of, when you go in the round, everything moves a little bit. So your corners are kind of there now, right? They're no longer here. They're not here. It's because it moves in the round. Crochet works that way. It works like that. And if you can actually see it there. Don't stress about that. We can sort that out later. But in the meantime, keep your stitch markers in there. That's just to show that there's 17 stitches between each. I'm lying. Try 16 stitches between each. There's altogether 17 across. So when you get to here, from 16 to there, and this one would be the 17th. All right. Don't worry about measurements for now. We can sort that out in part 2. In the meantime, I'm not going to talk anymore because, once again, like every other tutorial I do, they do go for a long time. So head off on your own, guys. Complete part 1 of this tutorial and join me on Monday for part 2, which is building the walls and building your pouches. Okay, so good luck in part 1 of making your pouched Easter bag. Alrighty guys, for this part of the tutorial, you will need your 3 strands of cream, white, whatever it is that you are using, or whatever colour you're using. We're going to start off by making a magic ring or a magic circle or a magic loop. Okay, that's grabbing your tail end, or tail ends, because there's 3 of them, wrapping your working yarn around your fingers like so, forming yourself a little cross, X, whatever you want to call it. Grab your hook, pass it under the first set of threads, pull those back threads up and through. So what you're going to do is grab everything like so. You've got to grab it all like so. All right, I hope that helped a little bit. If not, we do have a tutorial for the magic ring and the magic circle or the magic loop. That will be the second link in the description box down below. But in the meantime, here we go. Now you're going to start off by chaining 2, and a chain is yarn over your hook, pull a loop through once, yarn over twice, hold it there. Grabbing your orange stitch marker, being careful not to let go of everything because that'll collapse otherwise. So just grab your orange stitch marker and pop it through that top loop if you can. If not, you can pop it in later. Holding everything still, yarn over your hook. You're going to do a half double crochet in that center as well. So yarn over in the center, pull up a loop, still holding everything. A little bit tricky this first few rows, this first 2 rows. So you've got your 3 loops there, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Again, very tricky because we are working with 3 threads, okay? So just give your tail now a little bit of a tug, not too much, because you need to fit 12 half doubles in here all together. We've done 2 chains, we've done 1 half double. These 2 chains will act as a half double. So now we've got 2, we need to put in another 10 more. So yarn over your hook in the space, pull a loop through, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. All right, you might find that it's easier now to let go of that tail and everything. You don't need to hold it anymore, but yarn over, you still need to hold the ring and pop it in the space, pull up a loop. 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Lost my threads. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right, now I know that we counted all this together. Before you continue though, just give your tail a big tug. Your tail ends, yeah? Just give them a big tug and it closes up the center of your work. May not close it up completely, but we'll work on that later when we weave in our ends, okay? Before you continue, just count your stitches. And I know we counted them, but count them anyway. And what you're counting is this little V looking thing there, all right? So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then you've got your chains here, 12. Oh, they're really tight. That's come undone a bit now. Oh, it's very tight. I know, I have a feeling that it's going to be hard for me to slip stitch. Don't do that first, that top chain tight. So I'm going to pull it out. What you need to do is slip stitch into the chain where your stitch marker was. Pull the loop through. It's too tight in mine. Let's try it again. I'm so naughty. Pull that loop through. Ah, there we go, like so. Yes, then you pull it through to the loop on your hook. Yes, chain 1, keep that top one loose, 2. Grab your orange stitch marker, like so. And off we go into the very next row. This stitch marker right here, it's going to be a little awkward, this section here, for this round only. It gets better in the next round, all right? So what we're going to do, see that little tight stitch that we just did our chains in? You're going to put 2 half double crochets in there. However, in your first half double crochet you put in, you're going to put that stitch marker back in, all right? So yarn over your hook, go into the same tight stitch that your chains are in, pull a loop through, there's your 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, hold it there, grab your blue stitch marker. Like I said, a little awkward in this round with these 2 right here, okay, but it will get better in the next round. So you're going to put another half double crochet in that stitch, which is really, really tight. Oh my gosh, but I did it. All right, easy, easy. Now in your very next stitch, which is right there, you're going to pop 1 half double crochet. It's kind of tucked in, but it is there, right there. So yarn over your hook, in the stitch, you put 1 half double crochet in that first stitch. You put a half double crochet in your next stitch. And before we continue, I just want to let you know that you have formed your first corner there with your 3 half double crochets. I'm sorry, they're 2 plus the chains. Now in the next stitch, you're going to put 3 half double crochets. So yarn over your hook, 1 half double crochet, and 2, but stop at the 2 for a minute, half double crochets, because you're going to pop a stitch marker in your second of that center. Don't forget to put a 3rd one in there now, so half double crochet in the same space. So you've got 3 half double crochets there, 3 there, and you've got your 2 across this way. So now you're going to put 2 half double crochets across there, so 1 in there and 1 in the next. So 1 in the first. Oh, my stitches are loose. one in your second. All right, now we're going to do another corner, so we're putting 3 half doubles in there, but do 2 only and then put your stitch marker. So 1, let's try that again. 1, come on woman, and 2, hold it there, stitch marker, and 3, yes, and now you put 1 half double in the next 2 stitches, so 1, 2, we're going to form another corner, so you put 3 in your next, but you only put 2 first, and then put your stitch marker in that second one, and 2, pop your stitch marker in there, and you're putting another half double crochet in there, don't forget that, right there, and then 1 in your next, 1 in your next, and then you're at the end of your round. All right, so from here you are going to slip stitch into the orange stitch marker stitch. All right, so I don't know what the easiest way for you to do it is. I think I've split yarn there anyway, so I'm going to take mine out, but not into the blue one, into the orange one. All right, so there's the orange one, which is really, really tight. Oh, no wonder I split it. It's so tight. All right, so you're pulling a loop through that stitch and pulling it through to the stitch on your hook. All right, chain 1 and 2, grabbing your orange stitch marker, laxo. So now in this round, when you get to these corners, you put 3 half doubles in there, but you pop this stitch marker in your second half double. Now you need to use stitch markers in this pattern because even when we get to the bag part, and we're going up, we need to do some counting across the way. All right, so you need to know exactly where your corners are. All right, so let's continue. All right, oops. Now we can take our blue stitch marker out because we're going to put 3 half double crochets in there now. So yarn over your hook, put 3 half double crochets in there, but place the stitch marker back in the second one. So that's your first, oops, try that again. That's your second, grab your stitch marker, your blue one. It's going to get a little easier now with these stitch markers. Put another half double crochet in the same stitch. Yes. And then you are putting 1, 2, 3, 4 half double crochets across. So 1 in your first stitch, 1 in your second, 1 in your third, and 1 in your fourth, and things are going to start to get easier. All right, that first round, the first 2 rounds, is the most awkward part of this pattern. So there's your stitch marker stitch. You're going to put 3 half double crochets in there, but you're popping your stitch marker in your second one. Oh, look what I have. Look what I have. Okay, hopefully that didn't happen to you. All right, so 1 half double crochet in that stitch, 2 in the same stitch, pop your stitch marker back in, and a 3rd half double crochet in that stitch. Alrighty, and then you've got your 1, 2, 3 and 4 across. So 1 half double, 2, 3 and 4. All right, and guess what? There's your stitch marker. You're going to be popping your 3 in there. It's going to start looking like you're understanding the pattern soon. All right, so pop 3 half double crochets in that stitch, 1 and 2. Grabbing your stitch marker, pop it in the stitch like so. 1 in that same stitch again, so you've got your 3 in there, and then you're going to do 4 across. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and yes, you guessed it, a corner. Take out your stitch marker, and you're putting 3 half double crochets in that corner. There's 1 and 2. Oops. Stitch marker. And pop that third one in there. Don't forget that third one. Now here's a little different. You've only got 1, 2 and 3 stitches across here because your chains in this row will act as your 4th one before your corner. I hope this is making sense. All right, so you are going to do 1, 2 and 3, and then you're going to slip stitch into that 4th double crochet, half double. It's called a half double even though they're chains. In this round and every round that's going to be a half double crochet. All right, so there you go, and that's where you slip stitch to. All right, and there's your square. And you know, it's not going to be a perfect pointed square. It's going to have a slight curve to it, but not a real curve where it looks round. It will still look like a square. All right, so that is the rounds, guys. That's it. I'm going to show you again, or start you off at least. Okay, so when you get to these corners, you are popping your 3 half doubles and you're popping your stitch marker in your 2nd half double. So between each corner, you're going to have an extra 2. So in the first round, you had 2. That round here, you've got 4. And the next round, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in this round here, you're going to have 6. So what we're going to do, I'll start you off. Be careful not to forget this stitch. There is a stitch right there. All right, so yarn over your hook. You're going to put a half double crochet in that stitch right there, like so. And if it doesn't split, there you go. All right, so there's a stitch there. Take out your stitch marker. You're going to pop your 3 half doubles in there. 1 and 2. Really awkward with this thickness of yarn, but not completely difficult. Okay, and now you're putting your last half double crochet in that space, and across this way you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need to put 6 half doubles across. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 in your stitch marker. I hope you're getting this. I hope you're understanding what we're doing here, because it's just literally a repeat. Every row is the same, except you're adding 2 extra in each side. So 1 and 2. Pop your stitch marker in that second one. And then 1 more. All right, and don't forget from here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so off you go. I'm just going to speed this process up until we get to the very next corner. All right, it really gets tangled, the yarn now. That's why I sped up the process for you, so you didn't have to watch me untangle that bit just before. All right, so we're at the corner, yes? So what you're going to do, you're going to take out your stitch marker. Remember, you should have 6 across here, yeah? Now take out your stitch marker and pop in your 3 half doubles. Oops, and I split yarn already, I'm doing well. 3 half doubles, 1, 2, pop that stitch marker in the second one, and don't forget, after that second one you still need to put another half double, okay, or you'll be 1 short on one side of your work, okay, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across, and I'll put that on fast motion as well. All right. There's lots of pulling and tugging off this yarn, isn't there? Look at it. It gets all tangled. All right, so we're here at that very last corner before the end of the row. So take out your stitch marker. Now before you go, oh no, we'll do the corner first, so I don't confuse you. You need to put your 3 half doubles in there. 1 and 2. Pop your half double in there. I mean your stitch marker in there. Hello. And in your 3rd half double, make sure you pop that 3rd one in, don't forget it. Oh, slipped a slip off this, pull the stitch. Oh dear. Well, let's try that again. 3rd half double, right there. All right, now before we continue, all right, from here, once again, it's going to be a little bit different. You've had 6 across here, 6 across here, 6 across there, and the rest of it. So you really should have 6 here. You kind of do, but you don't. You only have 1, 2, 3, and then you're already 3 done, 1, 2, and 3. All right, so just be wary of that. All right, you've already got some done. It's actually starting in the middle of the round. Okay, and not on the corners, this particular piece. So 1, 2, 3, oops, and 4. And you remember, you already did your first 2 here, your chains and your half double. So now you're going to slip stitch, tight stitch, slip stitch into that tight stitch. It's tight for me in every round, but not just in this one because of this particular piece, but in all my work. So, you know, don't think it's just because of this. It's always tight. Okay, chain 1 and 2. Oh, let's do that one again. That's extra tight. I felt that happening. And 2. All right, now we're under control. You don't have to take your hook out. I just did because I'm going to show you what you need to do now. All right. From here, you are going to continue in these rounds, all right? After you've done these chains, you're going to do 1 half double crochet, 2 half double crochets. All right, then you're going to do your corner. Then you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 corner. And what you're doing in the corner is 3 half double crochets, popping your stitch marker in your second one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, corner with your 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, corner, 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you've already done your 8. All right, I'm hoping this is making sense. Your work is being started halfway or even at 3/4 of the way, I should say a quarter of the way, at the end of the row. All right, it's not starting in the corner like most of our work does when we're crocheting. It's literally starting outside that corner. All right, so what I want you to do is continue in that manner. Meet me back here at the end of the row and get ready for what's to happen next. Alrighty guys, look where we are. Simply gorgeous. It's growing now. Get excited. Alright, so let's slip stitch into our stitch marker. Right. Oop, there. Nice tight stitch marker. Hello. Well, nice tight stitch, not stitch marker. Okay, and there you go. Alright, so now what you're going to do is you're chaining your 1 and your 2 like normal, popping your stitch marker in like normal. Okay, and then we're going to do, oh it's too far away, sorry guys, there we go. We're going to do our half doubles across like normal. There's your first stitch. So yarn over your hook, half double across like normal. 1, 2 and 3, and of course in this section here your chains will act as 4, so it's 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now before we continue, I'd like to show you this one thing. Now the reason I'd like to show you this is because I want for you to head off on your own and do some rows. Okay, don't panic. In that previous round we did 8 across this way after we did our corner. You're going to pop your corner set in there of, you know, your 3 half doubles. Then across here, if you remember correctly from before, we had 8 that we put in there, right? Now, because we're here, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're going to have 10 half doubles along there, and in every corner you're going to do your 3. And you're going to do that in the round. Then when you get to this one here, you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So always in this side of your work you're going to have 4 or 5, and then you're going to have the rest across there. So make sure that once you slip stitch in here that all sides are correct. All 4 sides are correct and all 4 corners are correct. Because, get excited guys, we are up to the side where there's 10. I need you to finish off this row here, and then you have to do 2 more rows. You need to get to an area where we have 14 along the sides. Okay, so altogether complete this row and then do another 2 rows. So altogether you're doing 3 rows. All right, so do your 3 rows. What? They're saying what? Exactly the same way you've been doing this row. Complete the next 3 rows, and you are adding the extra 2 per section. So here you'll have 10, then you'll have 12, and then you'll have 14. So on the row where you've got 14, that's where you need to stop. All right, so do 3 more rows. Meet me back here in a moment and get ready for what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so here we are at the end of our 3rd row, and let me just show you what you should have. You would have done your 14 across, so what you really should have is 16 across on each side. Alright, so let's just count one so we know. So you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you've got your 16 there, 16 there, 16 there, and 16 there. And you are including your double crochet. I'm sorry, let's try half double crochet that you did, your first one there that you did in your corner. All right, so you should have literally 16 per side and one little one on each corner. We know there's 3, but for argument's sake, we just need the one there. Now this is where at this stage, oh, this has come undone. Doesn't matter. We'll just pop it back in. Shh, don't tell anyone. They didn't see it. Shh. So this is where we are going to be changing our pattern. All right. We're going to start by putting single crochets in the back loops, and what that's going to do is build a wall. It's going to build a line around your work, and your wall will be starting to grow. We're not going to grow the whole thing in this part of the series, but we're just going to start 2 rows of this build. All right, so let's start. So we are no longer going to be doing, what have I done there? I've put a chain through. Let's not put a chain through there. We're not going to be doing half doubles at all. Okay, we're going on to singles. And a single is, firstly, we'll slip stitch into that first stitch. It's very tight. That's why it's come undone. It's just, oh, I don't know. I don't know what I've done. Anyway, we'll slip stitch in. Oh, that one is really, don't do yours as tight as mine, guys. Seriously. All right, so there you go. Slip stitch into your first stitch, like so. Oh, like so. Yes. All right, so you've slip stitched in there. What I want you to do, just for now, pop a stitch marker in there. That is your last stitch before you slip stitch. Tricky, only because I want to do the very first single crochet in the back loop in the next stitch and not in the one that we're in. All right, so what you do, there's your next stitch right there. These are the stitches, as you know, the V's. See these loops in front? That is your front loop, and that one right there at the back is your back loop. All right, both of them together is your front and your back, but this is your front and this is your back. All right, so we are going to be putting a single crochet in that back loop there. Back loops, back loops, back. I say loops because we've got 3 threads there, but it's really only one back loop. So you're putting your hook in the back loop. There's no yarn overs. You're just popping your hook in the back loop, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And now you actually do need another stitch marker to pop in there. All right, but instead, we're going to take a risk. We're going to take out that stitch marker, so you know what I'm doing, right? So that will be the back loop. The very last stitch you go into will be right there, and then you'll slip stitch into this one right here, which is right there. All right, and don't worry, I'll be with you when you're doing this anyway, so you won't forget it. All right, so from here we're going into the very next stitch. You've got one there already. Pop your hook in your back loop right there, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's your second one. In your next stitch, back loop only, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. All right, now you have your stitch marker in here. I still need you to put that stitch marker in there because we need it for count later. But in the meantime, take it out and do only one in there in the back loop. Like you're doing for the rest, you're only doing one. Like that. And that's it. You're putting your stitch marker back in that one right there. All right, easy. Then you are going to do your single crochet in your back loops all the way across your row. Okay, fairly easy. It's not a bad row, this one. You can find the back loop easy, which is good. It's the only tricky part is getting those 3 threads to stay nice and straight and not knotting them. I get it, not knotting them. And not slipping, slipping some of the stitch out, because that happens pretty much across the row. Being careful, making sure you're going in every stitch. That stitch was relatively loose. I had to check it to make sure I hadn't missed one. It's very easy to miss one. Okay, so just take your time. There's no rush. And when you get to that corner, what are you doing? You're taking your stitch marker out, you're doing the corner stitch, and you're replacing that stitch marker there. Otherwise our count will be out of whack and we don't want that. All right. So the bonus about the stitch markers in this project is it keeps your count right. And if your count is wrong, then you've done a stitch wrong, or you've skipped a stitch or added a stitch or whatever. So this is a stitch before the corner. So we're going to make sure we get in that stitch. So we don't want to be one short. Take our stitch marker out, do the stitch, and pop the stitch marker back in. A little bit fiddly, but trust me, it does work. Okay. Oops. Yarn's flying all over the table. All right. So what I'm going to do for you is just speed up. Oh, you know what we'll do? We'll actually head off, I think, and you can complete most of the row. All right. What I want you to do, complete this row, back loops only, all the way until you get to, say, the last 3 or 4 stitches. Nice and close. So those last 3 or 4 stitches. And now remember, we didn't do this very last stitch right there before our stitch marker, all right? So just get to around the last 3 or 4 stitches and we will get together and finish that off, all right? I'll meet you back in a moment. Alrighty guys, the way your work should be looking now is as though it's being pulled a little bit, like, you know, it's kind of a bit taut. That's normal, so don't stress. And you should have like a line across the front. Have a nice look. You can see that little line right there. All right, that's normal because we are going in back loops, and this eventually, I'll show you in a minute once we finish off. All right, this is where your stitch marker is. Right here, you will have the 2 left, and I'm going to do that one which is right there, like so, and do the back of this one, which is a bit tight, because I wanted to leave that one open for this section. All right, now what we're going to do, take out your stitch marker like that. We are going to slip stitch to join. All right, so just go straight into that first stitch, pull the loop through, pull it through to the loop on your hook, and that's that. All right, so you've done your back loops only, all in the round. Now you're going to chain 1, give it a big tug, because in the same spot you're going to do a single crochet, and that's actually in the same space, like so. All right, what you should have had across in this one is 16 across and a 17th in your corner. So 16 plus the 1, which is 17. 16 plus the 1, which is another 17. Oh, I'm not even in frame. Let's try that again. From here, not from here, but from here, you should have 16 plus 1, 17. 16 plus 1, another 17, and so on and so on. And across here, once you slip stitch to join, forget about that, you should have had 16 across, all right? But really important that these 16 are there for the next part of our series, which will be part 2. But in the meantime, there we are. We're in that stitch right there. Right next to it is a stitch. You're not going in any loops now, you're just going in the normal stitch with single crochets. And that's your second one. Single across, all the way in your round. But you know what you're doing, don't you? You're going to pop your single in there. You're going to take out your stitch marker for your first stitch. Pop your single in that first stitch. Put your stitch marker back in. And continue on your merry way. Straight into the very next stitch with a single crochet. So we're not doubling anything, tripling anything, we're not doing anything. We are just doing a single crochet in the round. All right? Easy, 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 all the way through. All right? So what I want for you to do in a minute, but not yet, because I want to show you something. We're working in this direction, yes? Turn your work the other way. Just give everything a bit of a tug and you will find that it will start raising up the sides. And that is exactly what we are doing. We are now starting to build the sides. However, this is where our pattern will change, and that will change in part 2 of our tutorial. But for now, for this part, I want you to continue on, popping it back the normal way where you were, working along here, single crocheting all the way in the round, making sure you replace your stitch markers, get to this spot right here, and I will meet you up. Okay? All right, guys, here we are at the end of the row. Okay, I have a couple of stitches left and I'll get you a nice close-up. I have 2 stitches remaining. Okay, so there's one in there and one in there. All right, this is where things will change. You will slip stitch like normal to the top of your stitch marker there. Get rid of that stitch marker. Okay, so slip stitch like normal, pull a loop through. You're going to have a big change now. All we're going to do is pull up a loop like so and give it a cut. All right, for now, that's all I want you to do for this tutorial. So what you're going to have is that really massive knot. Oh, sorry about that. We're going to fix all that up in the next tutorial. So don't weave these ends in, leave them, okay? Leave those ends completely. But have a look at your square. It's already starting to close up. Now, in the round, altogether, you should have 68 stitches, all right? But from stitch marker to stitch marker, you should have 16, but you have the 17th in your stitch marker, so that makes it the 68. If you do not have 68 stitches, the rest of your bag is not going to tally up. It won't make too much of a difference, but when you put your pouched part, when you stitch the pouches to the side, it will be a little bit uneven, and you don't want that. You want your bag to be nice and straight because we're going to use both sides in the middle to stitch our pouch in. All right, in the meantime, what I want you to do, which we're going to do together now, see this little thread right here? We're going to quickly weave this end in. Now I'm going to cut some of these because mine have got knots in them because I use them to wind up. I use it on a winding machine. I think I've shown you how to do the winding before, but we might do it again one day. I'll show you my little winder one day so you can have a look-see again for the newbies who have not seen it. I will actually pop a link in a description box down below of the unwinding thing that I did a while back. It's a very long time ago, but there you go. Now, this is up to you what you do here. If you want to weave them all in together at the same time, you can, but anyway. All right, now there you go. So this is white, a little bit hard to see white, but you can see it. So now what you can do is you can either weave it in any way you like, but I would literally go through some thicknesses. Now you're going to find this is very thick. This is not the right needle for this, and I'm going to have to change it for future weaving in. But for now, I'm just going to do, oh, I'm out of frame. For now, I'm just going to do this. Are you going in the round? It's always out of frame when it comes to doing close-ups, aren't I? I do apologise. Maybe they're just far too close. All right. Okay, so there you go. Now, you're going to have to weave in all 3 ends. So take your time. You've got time because guess what? This is the end of part 1. No, seriously. It is, guys, because what I want you to do, continue weaving in the other 3 ends, the other 2 ends that you've got. Make sure you're checking the front of your work, making sure you can't see the needle, okay? Again, doesn't matter too much because it's under the bag. I'm going to go the other way now, in the opposite direction, okay? And what that does is it stops your, oh, it's a little thick there, but no, that's all right, good. It stops your magic circle, magic ring, magic loop from coming undone, because you know how many times I hear people say, "No, mine came undone. I don't like doing them," because you don't reinforce. You must reinforce it, all right? And in bags, it's okay. Okay, so there you go. That's 1 thread, and I would do the same with the other 2 threads that are hanging off here as well. So continue on and weave in those ends. Don't weave in this one because I'm going to show you how to join that properly in our next tutorial. So leave that one in part 2 of our bag. All right, we have now completed part 1 of our bag. Part 2 will be building the walls and building your pouches. Now, there are 2 ways we can do this, okay? Now, one way is we can build the wall completely. I can send you off on your own now. You can do it and come back, and then we'll do the pouches in the middle. But it becomes really hard to work into. Or I can make you do all the pouches now and then show you how to attach them to the walls later. We can do that as well. Or, this is the part that I want to do, we can get together and do the walls, the pouches and the walls at the same time. And I think that's a little better. A lot of people might find it confusing. Once you start seeing how I'm building the pouches and the walls, you can decide yourself whether you want to head off on your own and do your walls first and then your pouches, or you want to do your pouches first and then attach to the walls once the pouches are finished and you can do your walls. That is what we're going to talk about in part 2 on Monday. Okay, so join us on Monday for part 2. Notice how when we did our crochet in the back loops, your work now officially turns up. Okay, and it's going to stay that way, and you might find it'll tighten up a little bit depending on the pattern that we use. And I'll have to have a play with that pattern because I don't know if it pulls in too much. I'll change it. If it's too loose and comes out that way, I'll change it to suit. And that's what the playing around this weekend is for. Also, if you wanted to join us on Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m, Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. for our lives, we discuss the projects that we are making throughout the week, projects that we did make, projects that we're going to make, and we also have a little bit of fun. And you know, sometimes we talk about projects we'd like to make, and sometimes I accidentally decide to make them. So your ideas are really, really important to me, which is why we do our lives, so you can come over to the lives and pass your ideas of what we can create in the future. I do have a whole year's list of work to do, but occasionally I stop and create something that some of our subscribers say because they're just popular and in demand at the time. All right, so don't be shy to join us on our lives. If you are a tad shy, you can leave a comment in the comment section down below here, or you can send me private message on our Facebook page, Wow Crochet Designs, or our Instagram page, Wow Crochet Designs, or you can head over to my website at www.wowcrochetdesigns.com and you can send some information via there. And that's really all the ways you can contact me, okay? Otherwise, I will see you guys on Monday to complete part 2 of our pouched Easter bag. Gorgeous! Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share and do all those wonderful things that you guys already do for me. And all I want to say right now is, very nice. Ciao for now.